many phones you got, man?
Oh, that's not open. I just hung onto it.
Are you streaming? What's that?
It'll pop up every once in a while.
I'm gonna look at that on the channel side.
Yeah.
So far, it's just like. Me too.
I hope I'll be there.
Travis,
Yo,
are you gonna get in there?
no, between the rig and the red crane.
The red crane, right? So,
That red crane.
so they're gonna have a shot from there.
Yeah. All right, we're looking at your questions and comments in the live chat. So if you ask anything, if you get any questions, ask away, and we'll try to answer them the best we can. By the way, this is Travis and Kyle doing the live stream here. Hunter was out on the boat a little bit ago, so check out that stream that we posted as it came in, as the dock came in. If you guys notice, the dock looks like it's about cut in half, and that's exactly right. So it was Grand Bahama Shipyard dry dock number 2. This dock had a accident several years ago, a couple of years ago, and in the process of salvaging it, it was cut in half roughly. Originally it was a little over 900 feet long, and it's about 200 feet wide. So the original lift capacity was about 80,000 tons. So even though it's reduced in size, it will still be able to handle Texas with ample capacity. In fact, the lift capacity on this dock will be about 35,000 tons. And Texas currently is displacing about 26,000 tons. So plenty of lift, plenty of room. And I can't tell you how excited we are to have this dock here and be able to take the ship in. The original length of the dock was a little over 800. Right now it's like 470, which is yes, shorter than the length of the ship. The ship's 573, but the main lifting members that are the keel blocks, the placement of the blocks is going to be directly over all the structural members on the dock itself. So there's the overhang there was already unsupported ends of the ship, even if she were in a dry dock that was much larger than her or much longer than her. So. We were getting video of the ship when she comes out of water. We want to do a time lapse of that as well. So yeah, so because again, it's really cool, and we want to do that because the last time the ship was out of water was 30 years ago. Yes, our last update says we'll be having the ship will be going in the shipyard in August. So we're looking at mid-August right now. The dry dock itself will be ready around early August. That's what the delay is the final preparations of the dry dock to accept the ship. Yeah, but just to clarify, there won't be a dry berth for Battleship Texas. So there'll be this floating dry dock that's going to repair her, and after the repair is complete, she'll go back in the water. For the next dry docking, which we're planning 10 to 15 years from now. Alright, so as you guys see right now, there's a bunch of little tugs that are getting around everything. The big ocean-going tug there, the Signet Warhorse 2, is fixing to detach the tow bridle, which you see is anchor chain there. Once they have that loose, these tugs, all the little hard push boats will start pushing the tug, or pushing the dock into position, which will be, last I heard, you can't see it on the stream right here. Give me a second here. Sorry there. So if you look to the left there, there's a floating oil rig there in kind of in storage, and then there's a red crane. So the red crane is right there. It should be going in the slip right in between those two piers there. That's Gulf Copper just finished dredging out that slip, digging the sinkhole there to be able to submerge the dock to take on the ship. That hole is about 65 feet deep, because that's how far the dock has to go down to get the clearance to get into the battleship. That's what makes the Battleship project really unique, is the actual physical properties of the ship. The ship is not long by ship standards, 573, but she's heavy, she's dense. She's a 26,000 tons, sorry, and she has a deep draft, so 29 feet aft right now, and about 24 foot forward. So that makes her really unique. There's a lot of dry docks that can handle that length, but they can't handle that weight, and they can't handle that draft. The ship is, she's a battleship. She's super dense. No, this isn't a World War II dry dock. This dry dock was built in 1979 in Japan, and for the city of Portland. So it went from Japan to Portland to the city-owned shipyard there. It was there for several decades before ending up in Grand Bahama. So that dock had to go from Portland all the way around the coast of South America, around the Horn, and back up into the Caribbean. And there it's been for the past. To be honest with you, I don't know how long it's been in Grand Bahama, but having been all through that dock in January, it is an absolutely fantastic, structurally intact dock. And the interior looks like it's brand new, particularly where it matters, where the structural members and all that stuff. So Dan Bourne, I saw your question, why no dry berth? Why not? Simply put, just because of cost. It's very expensive to dry berth the Battleship. Because of the properties that I just talked about. She's very big, she's very deep, and she's very heavy. So it'll take a little bit of, it takes a lot of effort and expense to dry berth the ship the size of Texas. The cost, to do it properly, the previous cost estimates we've got have been anywhere from $50 to $75 million just to dry berth the ship, to build a permanent dry berth. Hey Travis, from a fellow Travis, yes, and not only that, but we will be, as best we can, we will be pushing this out everywhere. It will be a media event when the ship leaves San Jacinto, because again, it'll be the first time in 30 some odd years that it's moved from San Jacinto, and we will be pushing media everywhere. We're currently having issues with our Facebook page. Facebook is not being kind to us the past few weeks, so we're trying to get that resolved, and hopefully we'll have it resolved by the time the ship leaves. But if not, we've got other means of pushing it out. Be sure to follow us on both here on our YouTube channel, on our Twitter feed, which is at Battleship TX. I think there's no underscore in there, right, Kyle?
I think it's just at Battleship.
Yeah, at Battleship TX, and then on our Instagram feed, which is I think the same. Or at Battleship Texas Foundation on our Twitter feed, or our Instagram feed. So that's just keep watching. We will have that stuff out. Verdant, no, we will not be building a cofferdam for the Battleship Texas. Again, it's too costly to do that. The cost for a dry berth cofferdam situation, at least for Texas, is in the tens of millions of dollars. Anywhere from well, I said 50 earlier, but the most recents have been anywhere from 40 to $70 million.
My name is Brian. I'm a beer captain and tour guide for this trip. In the back is Jason, our deckhand, who is helping me onto the boat. If you have any questions throughout the tour, you can ask either one of us, and we'll do our best to answer your questions for you. Otherwise, in the meantime, while he's getting the boat on time, we're going to go over some safety information. So while you're on board the boat today, as we're cruising around, you are welcome to walk around and move. So you don't have to stay in the seats that you picked. Once you get away from the hot dock, actually some of the best seats are upstairs, so if you want to move around, you can. Just do so safely. That means while you're on board the boat today, no running or jumping or climbing on anything. Please don't hang off of anything, and no standing on the seats. We also have life jackets on this boat. No matter where you sit, upstairs, downstairs, forward, or back, you're going to be around a life jacket. We try to make those easy to find by labeling their locations with big signs that say life jackets on there. So as you look around, find those bitches, but please leave all of our life saving equipment where it is, unless otherwise instructed by us, the crew. And then lastly, the Seagull 2 is a non-smoking vessel.
Coax. Right now, the $35 million project that we're doing for the get the ship to the shipyard and to repair the ship, that is all funded by appropriations from the state legislature through Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. So we are getting those funds from the state government. We are getting some federal funds, but it's nowhere near on that scale. And just right now, there's not really a federal funding mechanism to get those kinds of dollars into a project like this. The most recent amount of federal funding we got was $500,000 from a federal matching grant, so Save America's Treasures. So that $500,000 will fund repairs to the ship's superstructure, and that's a total of like about a $1.3 million project. A lot of that we're doing in-kind donations to match that $500,000 in cash, and so we're really excited about that. That's another big project that needed to get done. That's going to happen in this project. When we post an update later or early next week, we're going to talk about that project a little bit and what's going on. And that is actually underway. We're doing hazardous materials remediation right now, and once that's done, we will. When the ship gets into the shipyard, those repairs will start in the shipyard. So. A little bit of what's going on right now is they're slowly moving the dry dock into position, they're going to turn it 90 degrees to us right now, and then it'll be pushed into the slip there at Gulf Causeway. So evolutions like this are really slow because, well, it's a lot of mass and it's a big sail area. So a little bit of wind on something that flat and slab-sided will cause it to kind of skid across the water. So that thing is flat bottom, so it's kind of like being on a flat bottom boat. You have a little bit of wind and you're not moving. You just kind of go wherever the wind takes you. Dan Bourne, she will be safe. She will be safe. And thank you for your donations and supporting us. World of Warships did give us through one of the fundraisers that they did several years ago, a couple $100,000. I forget the number off the top of my head. It's between $200,000 and $300,000, and we were very, very grateful for that donation and for all of y'all's support. For those who play World of Warships and participated in that and supporting the Battleship. Hey, Harbor Watch, the tow we're anticipating once she leaves San Jacinto, once she gets into the ship channel at San Jacinto, to take about 8 hours unless there's any kind of major delays. Which we were planning for, but aren't going to, we're not expecting. Latasha, yes, the Battleship will be staying in her World War II camouflage that she's in right now, which is Measure 21. She'll be getting a nice new coat of navy blue. That's the camouflage color that she was painted off of Okinawa in Iwo Jima. Adiran, she will go into dry dock in August, mid-August of this year. I hope I pronounced your name right. So, in greetings from Texas, there in Netherlands. Okay, so while we're waiting here, I can answer more questions, but in the meantime, I'll talk a little bit about the dock itself. So if you look at the right-hand side of the dock, you see there's a white house on top of it, right? Well, that is the control center for the dock. When Kyle and I were down in Freeport in January, we shot some video up there, and we actually were standing on top of that. And that's about close to 50 foot off the water. To put it in perspective, when the Battleship is on this dock, her main deck will be above the wall of the dock, so the wing wall. So that big blue slab-sided thing that we see, that's called a wing wall, and that's to give the dock stability and buoyancy while it's submerged. And that's also where all the pump motors are at, all the electronics and all that stuff that actually controls what happens with the dock. So, like I said, that's a pretty high up off the water. Like I said, the ship will be sitting on blocks. The blocks will be about 4 foot tall, and then of course the freeboard of the ship at midship is about 25 feet or so. So 25 feet plus 4, so that's almost 30 feet. So she'll be a little bit above the wing wall, and then like just really towering above everything. In fact, her foretop will almost be as tall once she's out of the water as these offshore oil rigs, which I think are about 160 feet or so. So way up there. She's going to be impressive. If you're coming into Galveston, you would be able to see her from the causeway between Galveston and the mainland. So she's going to be really impressive out of the water. So getting back to walking around our little dock tour here, if coming along the top, you see what's left of a gantry crane. Gulf Copper has opted not to use those cranes, so they're removing them. And you have the accommodation ladders on the side, and then a sally port there under the D, that square opening. That's where people can go in and out of. And then if you look going down back to the right side at the tug, you see this triangle shaped kind of wedge apron looking thing just above the water. So that's about even with the dock floor, or is even with the dock floor. That's called an apron, and that extends out the working platform of the dock. So that's not designed to support the weight of the ship or vessel that's picking up. It's just there to extend out the working platform. So in this case, the ship's stern will be extended over that, and that just gives more area for man lifts and scaffolding and staging and all that kind of thing. So for people, again, the ship won't actually be resting on that. It's not designed to take that weight. Let's see. And then on the side, you can see the draft marks, so they tell you how deep the dock will submerge when an operation, when a loading operation is occurring. So when Texas gets loaded on, okay, we're going to shift the camera for a second. So when Texas gets loaded on, the dock will submerge to about the 65 foot line. That's what we need to get the clearance onto the dock, and that's about what the maximum submergence capacity of the dock is. So that's about how far that's hydrostatics will allow it to go down. It's the water pressure pushing on the side of it, because you don't want it to, obviously, like when a ship sinks, right, the bulkheads can collapse as from water pressure. The same thing can happen even at a fairly shallow depth, and we don't want to damage the dock. So we're fairly limited in the depth the dock can submerge. Guys, to be honest with you, this is our first live stream, and how we doing? Let us know. Give us some likes if you like it, and if you haven't subscribed before, please subscribe. And well, if you watch any of our videos with me on camera, unfortunately, you can see that pretty much how I talk to you on camera is how I talk, period. So not incredibly polished, but there it is. Hi, Iceland. Good to have you aboard. I don't know if you know it or not, but Texas was in Reykjavik several times in our Hakafjord, and I hope I pronounced that right, in 1941, escorting convoys. So she has been in your neck of the woods, as we say here in Texas. Don, yeah, it looks a little small right here, but believe me, standing on that dock floor is absolutely massive. We were absolutely blown away by the size of it. I guess the way the best to describe it is, the perspective from the camera is a little deceiving, and once we get the ship in there, it will look small. It'll look like a hot dog. The ship will look like a hot dog in a hot dog bun, with the hot dog bun being the dry dock. Hey, painted thumbs, yes, there are scale models of Texas available. There are several kits through different companies, namely Tamiya has a really good kit, both of Texas and New York, and 350 scale and 700. Yes, the Battleship will be protected from hurricanes.
Now y'all leaving all the people there all the time. Hey guys! Woo!
We're making that turn.
Texas will be coming to Galveston in August. Right now, there is not fairly extended flooding, Chinto Kata. We've done a really good job of reducing the amount of flooding on the ship. We went from pumping around 2,000 gallons of water a minute in the summer of 21 to we're probably around 100 gallons a minute right now, 100 to 150 gallons a minute right now. So we've significantly reduced the amount of water coming into the ship, and that 2,000 gallon number that I was giving you, water coming in, that's what we're pumping over the side. We're pumping over the side, was just what it took to keep the ship afloat. We've eliminated that, so what we're down to is basically maintenance pumping now, just pumping out a little bit of water that leaks in here and there, which to a certain extent all ships do. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, you will absolutely get a fantastic view from the harbor side into the Harbor House Hotel of the ship in the dry dock. In fact, we're standing at the end of the Ulysses Pier at Pier 21, thanks to the folks at the end, the Texas Seaport Museum. And if you are in Galveston, come see these folks. They have an absolutely fantastic ship that still goes out and sails. In fact, next week, the Coast Guard cutter Eagle, so the Coast Guard's training ship Eagle, will be here in Galveston, which is a pretty big deal. So there'll be two tall ships here at the same time. Liberty, the dry dock will look small compared to the ship. So the ship is absolutely, she's tiny compared to other battleships, but she's still absolutely massive and impressive. We heart you too, Daniel Benavides. Is that how I pronounce your name, Benavides? I'm just kidding, Danny. We love you and the guys at Valpor. Pipehead 69, yes, we are not looking at a site location to the San Jacinto Monument for the new home of the ship. It'll either be here in Galveston, in Baytown, or in Beaumont. All Texas-based locations, and that's where she'll be, unless some new location popped up before we make a decision. We are in active discussions with all of those entities, and we hope to be making a decision in the not distant future. And obviously, once we do make a decision, we will let you guys know. All right, so what's going on with the dock right now? You can see they are spinning her around, spinning it around. You're going to see her, see the width of the dock. I keep calling her, it's an it. She doesn't have a personality like a ship does. To be fair, it probably does, but a ship is always a she to me. So you'll actually see how wide this thing is. From outside of the wing wall to outside the wing wall is a little over 200 feet. Inside the wing walls, or inside the wing walls and the rails of the dock, so that's about 170 feet, or 150 feet. Sorry, I'm trying to remember these numbers off the top of my head. I will get you these numbers here accurately in a moment. Just to reiterate for everyone, Texas will be coming into the dock in August of next year. We are looking at mid-August, so that puts our puts us a little under 2.5 months. So things are fixing to really get intense on the ship as far as the last bit of preparation work. So we'll be talking about that on our channels, even if it's just quick little shorts about what's going on with the ship, because we know everyone really wants to know.
Someone said to stock up on coffee so we can live stream the entire time. So we did same setup. Which we're gonna try, but we also are gonna be a little busy during that time.
Right. So one thing we are kind of mandated by the Coast Guard is not to have any extraneous people. So everyone, including us, doing the live stream right now, we have other duties. So as we get breaks from those, we will live stream. So we probably won't live stream the whole time, but we will look at it, at doing little hits every now and then. Like I said, we've been mandated to keep our numbers down to a low, safe number of what we just need to do to operate tow the ship safely. Which also means we can't sell tickets. Thanks for pointing that out, Kyle. As much as we would love to, it's just not safe to do so. The crew that we'll have aboard will be a group of our ship staff, our operations staff, our salvage contractor, Resolve Marine, who will be doing the helping with pump operations, have divers, everything that we need in case something really goes wrong. Resolve will be taking the point on that, and then we'll have obviously the Houston pilots, the Galveston channel pilots, and our representatives from our project manager and maybe a few others from our engineering company, Valcor Energy Services, which I can't say enough. I've been absolutely phenomenal to us. I don't know that we could have done this project as well as we've done without their support and their efforts. All right, like I said, she's turning slowly. That's a lot of. It's not a very heavy dock. It's about a 7,000. I think it's about 7,000 tons. But it's very ungangly. Will the white part of the cabin be equal to whatever? No. So you can't see it now, but if you go earlier in the feed, there's about a 65-foot number, a 65 number on the side of the dock. It'll be at that. I think if we're looking at it right now, it'll be. I tried to find a good line there. I'm losing it. Okay, there's a diamond-shaped rust mark about halfway up that wing wall at the end. It'll be a right about there, maybe just a little bit higher than that. But it won't go all the way up to that cabin, no. So when a dry dock submerges, it has to have reserve buoyancy, right? A buoyancy. So the dock sinks, but it really doesn't sink. It's like a submarine. It submerges, and it's still floating while the bulk of it is underwater. And then once the ship or barge or whatever floats over the top of it, then the water's pumped out of the dock. And as the water comes out, it becomes lighter and buoyant. It lifts up the ship or barge that's sitting there. Yes, Shannon Temple, the Texas will be able to float down the ship channel. She will be towed by at least 2 tugboats. So the type that's on the left side of the dock right now, that red and white one, that very same style of dock, and then at least 2, up to 4 as we're coming out of San Jacinto, and then down the channel. And then those numbers are subject to change. Please do not quote me on that, because we're still finalizing our tow plan, and that will all, once we get it finalized, then we'll have our kind of exact number. And then as she comes for maneuvering like into the ship channel here, or into the dry dock, there'll be more tugs, additional push boat tugs to help, like these 2 here that are on the end of the dock, to help push the ship into place. And anywhere we push on the ship will led by engineers to make sure that the ship is able to be pushed in those locations without damaging the ship or causing flooding or anything like that. We're very, very cognizant of the kind of damage that can be done by a dock or by a push boat on just by pushing on the ship. Unfortunately, the weakest areas of the ship right now, the majority of the weakest areas of the ship right now, have all been filled with foam up to about 3 foot above the waterline. So that's all good stuff. So even if there is a bump there, it shouldn't be too damaging. But even still, we don't want to push in those areas just because. And then, you know, as you start seeing footage of the ship being towed or being prepped, you'll start seeing marks appear on the side of the ship, and those marks will show, you know, where our draft lines are at during the tow, and then will also show where the push points are, where the ship can actually safely be pushed at. And those are just indicators for the tugs. Whatever we need to do to safely move the ship is what will happen. At the end of the day, safety to the ship is paramount, and safety to the people operating on the ship or on the water around the ship during that operation. Yeah, someone just talked about the size of the dock. It does look small. I mean, we do have Texas size expectations of everything being massive in Texas, but this dock is sufficient size to be able to handle the Battleship. And otherwise, we would not be excited about this project or about this evolution right here, and what's going on with the dock, and have invested so much effort into facilitating and helping and logistically Gulf Copper get this dock here. Gulf Copper's done a fantastic job, absolutely fantastic. They're great people. I'm really excited to be working with them and have the ship in the dock every day. So, Maria, that's a good question. What we'll be doing in the shipyard is, once the ship's out of water, we'll be repairing the leaky blister tanks, or actually replacing the leaky blister tanks. Those are tanks that are added onto the ship in between 1925 and 1927 to improve the ship's torpedo defenses. And they've been problematic ever since they were installed. And as the ship's gotten older, it's just become even worse. So we're going to quite literally replace them from the waterline down, and the rest of the original hull we're going to double plate, meaning we're going to add a new layer of steel over the top of that. So we're ultimately be adding around 800 tons of steel to the ship, and then we're of course repainting everything, the entire exterior, and then repairs to the superstructure of the ship, so everything above main deck. So we're on that. We're really going after structurally deficient areas, particularly higher up in the ship, so like the foretop, the main mast, the radars, that kind of thing. It's still a lot of work. We're estimating that it's going to take just under a year to do the work, but that's all dependent on the supply chain and labor markets and all of that stuff. There's a lot of work to happen. There's a lot of welding to happen. So. But we feel fairly confident. Gulf Copper feels that we can get it done. We're going to get it done regardless of how long it takes, but it's going to get done. Captain Chris, there is no firm date yet. We have a soft date of mid-August, and right now that's all dependent on that could accelerate or it could slide just a little bit. We feel really confident about mid-August unless something really wonky happens. So the last things that have to be done is the dry dock has to be, the last bit of work has to be done to the dry dock. And I know right now they're waiting on some things to be delivered to the dock to make it finally ready for the ship. So as soon as it's ready, we will be in a position to move the ship. I personally do not want the dry dock to be waiting on us. I want to keep waiting on the dry dock. Maddie said yes, her rudder is 14 degrees to starboard. Sorry. it's really weird. I keep always getting confused because of the on the actual steering gear itself. It uses the old British nomenclature, which was port for starboard and starboard for port. And then at some point it changed, but the new tags were pulled off, and it just still is confusing looking at it. And that whole old naming system was based on so when you turn the wheel, that's the way the ship turns, but the head of the rudder does the opposite thing. So the British system was based on what the head of the rudder does. So if you want to go right or to starboard, the head of the rudder goes to the left or to port. So that's port. Yeah, it was really confusing. So that's why there was actually a lot of accidents because of that. So that's why that system changed. Yes, Luna and Burnt Toast will be going with the same paint schemes, the Measure 21 navy blue overall on all the vertical surfaces, and deck blue 20B on the horizontals. So that's a camouflage scheme she wore in October, pretty much all from January 1945 all the way up until 1948 when she was repainted into the peacetime haze gray right before she came to San Jacinto. No, we won't repair the rudder. No. Dennis, the only way that we would do a replacement screw is if we had the new patterns and had them cast, and that's 32,000 pounds of phosphor bronze, and that stuff isn't cheap. As of right now, Captain Chris, we will not have volunteers in the shipyard outside of thank yous for our existing volunteers, because we think that our existing volunteers who have been volunteers to this date right now they've been an integral part of this project, and we want to thank them. So we'll be working with the shipyard to try to make that happen. But as regular work goes, as of right now, no. Josh, what about the engines? No, as of right now, we will not get one to operational status. We have a lot more to get taken care of on the ship. We will keep stabilizing them. They're just really, really big, massive pieces of machinery and really, really complicated. As of right now, again, stabilizing is our best bet, which we will continue to do. James, we haven't made that determination yet. We've got some weather and window no-goes in our draft tow plan. I don't really want to disclose those yet until we've actually reviewed that with everyone is kind of on our side of the table, signed off on it, and we've passed it to the Coast Guard for review. because it could change, and I really don't want to give out bad or information that could be contradictory. But yes, we'll be looking at, we will have a weather go, no go window, considering the time of year it is in Texas.
It's like Warhorse is taking off.
Vlad, not yet. We'll be moving in mid-August. Right now is our time frame. Don, it won't be a total replacement. We'll be doing doubler plates for the bulk of the ship. The blisters will get rebuilt from just above the waterline down, but outside of that, it's largely just going to be doublers. The price still has shot through the roof from the time that we started this project. In fact, almost every cost that we've had has gone through the roof. So it's caused us to kind of reevaluate how this project gets how we execute the main scope of the work, which is making the ship watertight. That's what we're after. We want the ship watertight so she doesn't leak and she lasts generations. So pulling into the shot right now is the Signet Warhorse 2. That big tugboat right there towed the ship from Freeport, Grand Bahama, starting last Thursday. Sorry. The floating dry dock from Freeport, Grand Bahama, starting last Thursday, and took all through Memorial or last weekend, and well, here it is. So those guys are really good at what they do. It is a massive tug. Okay, so, but Jared, you asked how does a dry dock work? Okay, well, what we're looking at is a floating dry dock. So right now it's floating. It can be towed anywhere in the world. This dry dock was built in Japan in 1979 and was towed across the Pacific to Portland, Oregon. It was built in Japan for the city of Portland, for a city-owned dock there. It was there for several years and then was towed to around Cape Horn and up to Freeport, Grand Bahama. And it was there for several years until now. It's, or at least this half of that dock is in now in Galveston. So a floating dry dock, again, by nature it floats, right? So how it works is there's a big deck underneath it. So feet tall inside of it, in the bottom of it, it's huge, and there's several tanks that run the width of the dock. And then the water is so to submerge the dock, because the dock doesn't sink, it submerges. Water's allowed into those tanks. It fills the lower area where those little tugboats are pushing on right now. As the dock keeps going down up the walls, so that blue slab-sided thing right there, that's called a wing wall. There's one on the other side. That's where all the pump motors are at. A lot electrical and electronics are for the dock, and water goes in there up to a certain point and then stops. And by that time, the dock is underwater. The ship comes on, or the barge or whatever comes on, and then the water is pumped out of that tank, out of the ballast tanks, and the dock rises from its natural buoyancy, and it picks up the structure that's lifting, whether it's a barge, a ship, or a floating oil rig, and then and that's it. It just sits there just like that, floating structure holding ship. Now, a floating dry dock, a lot of people have asked, well, why don't you take the ship up to the dry dock up to where the ship's at now and put the dry dock, the ship on the dry dock there, and then tow it down here? Well, that's a really good question, and we look really hard at that and doing that, just because it seems like that is the least risk-averse way, the most risk-averse way to doing that. But the reality is, a dry dock is meant to go up and down in one location. right? So just like an elevator, it goes down, load goes on, comes up. Now, it's not really designed to be towed any meaningful distance with a load on it. So that's even in protected water. So you're adding stresses to the dock that it really wasn't designed. It was worth the risk to the ship and to the to go down that route. Jojo Kun, we are actually working on that right now. I got the whistle solenoid back this morning so that hopefully we can electrically sound the ship's whistle. So hopefully we'll be able to do that in tow, but we'll see. There's a lot of stuff going on, and we don't want to bog down the actual operation with cool stuff. Our priority is getting the ship safely here. And to be honest with you, which means we might not be able to live stream from the ship itself. So during the tow, we will stream from the ship coming out at various points coming down the channel, but it just depends. Again, our priority is getting the ship safely here from San Jacinto, which is about 40 miles. Well, I hate to say that there was no actual feet dragging in this project. We've been pushing since day one to get the ship going. The biggest thing that has made this project challenging is not actually the condition of the ship. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the reality is that ships in far worse condition than Texas have been towed over appreciable distances for eons, right? I mean, that's what salvage companies do. They raise wrecked ships, float them to wherever they're going for them to do whatever to, whether to be put back into service, to scrap, or whatever. And ships in far worse condition, far worse shape than Texas. So, for me personally, and for us, that's never really been an issue, is getting the ship going. The bigger issue has, and it's always been the delay, or the biggest issue with taking the ship to a dry dock is the lack of dry docks. On the Texas Gulf Coast, there are, outside of this dry dock right here, there are 3 dry docks that can handle a ship the size of Texas. I mean, mostly the draft. When we're talking, really, it's the limiting factor on the ship is the draft and the displacement, because she's so heavy and she sits so deep in the water. So there's only 3 dry docks: Pascagoula, which is tied up with Navy work, so Navy new construction, Mobile, Alabama, and Tampa, Florida. So those are all a long ways away and require ocean tows. We are adverse to doing that because yes, we can move the ship. Yes, we think we could do a Gulf tow. At the same time, it's a lot of extra risk that is not necessary. And the other factor is the willingness of those yards to be able to take on a project like Texas, because it would tie up their dock for upwards of a year. And a lot of those companies rely on, or really make money off of ships coming in and out repeatedly, and are not ships, but ships going in and out getting repairs. That's much more profitable to them than the dock being tied up for a year. So now, and by the way, there were no dry docks capable of handling Texas in Texas, period. Now there is, till just right now with the dock that we're looking at right here. So this is going to be, the name for this dock is Gulf Copper GC 35,000. So GC, of course, Gulf Copper 35,000 is its lift capacity, and Battleship Texas displaces 26,000 tons. So again, we were really excited that's been the longest thing in this project. There's been, like I said, no intentional feet dragging or anything like this. I mean, it may seem like it from the outside, but this is what it is. It all comes down to that's why we're so excited about seeing this dock get here, because it makes this project able to happen with a lot less risk and a little bit more. Well, we want to see it still happen in Texas, because Battleship Texas is the flagship of the Texas Navy. So there's a little bit of Texas pride there. So yes, we Texans are prideful people, but you know. But anyways, interesting fact. Last week I spent some time in the Texas State Archives and was going through Governor Stevenson's correspondence, particularly around the time that the ship was being offered up by the Navy. And in the time, there was an article in the December 10th, 1945 issue of Time magazine, where a guy that was stationed overseas suggested that they could find getting the ship the money necessary needed to build the berth for the ship, or the dock for the ship at San Jacinto, if every Texan contributed $1 for every time they bragged about being a Texan or the attributes of the state of Texas. So, and of course, by the time that appeared, and I think it's a fantastic idea, but by the time that appeared, they'd already, the Houston Chamber of Commerce and the Houston Port Bureau, or I'm sorry, the Port of Houston had already agreed to fund all the dredge and berth construction necessary for the ship's berth and dock at San Jacinto. But people, I was looking through the governor's correspondence, and you could see people writing in letters and with checks for $1 or $2. This is 1945. It doesn't seem like a whole lot of money, but some guy wired in $100. And so yeah, I'm a prideful Texan. And there's this one guy who was in the Army in the Pacific. I think he was in the Philippines at the time. He goes, I'm not a Texan, but I'm pretty proud of Texas, of the Battleship and the state of Texas. So here's mine. I've been bragging by proxy. Right?
Somebody said all the British battleships were scrapped, so technically there's one still around. Technically. Where? In Japan.
That's right. So
it was built at
Armstrong Vickers. So there you go. And I will say this, as far as the new location, is that we're not offering to specific locations. We are accepting proposals from various municipalities. We are going in with eyes open and have had active discussions with every municipality that's expressed interest, including some private entities. And we go through kind of a vetting process to a certain extent, and that's largely the RFP process. So that's RFP's request for proposal, where people submit what they think their best case and bringing the ship to Texas or into their community, and why they think the ship would be successful, how much it would cost, all those factors. We're talking about a really complicated project and really complicated factors that all have to get kind of weighted out and with each location, and we go from there. All right, so looks like they're doing the final alignment to slide the dry dock into that spot, and once they get it in, we'll discontinue the live stream, and then we'll catch you guys with an update later next week and go from there. But in the meantime, we'll still stand here and ask questions, answer questions and whatnot. Hey, Harbor White, you're quite welcome. Yeah, we're trying. we are a small staff. This is actually our first time to do a live stream, so we are a very small staff that try to put out as much information as quickly as we can. Just to remind everyone, we actually don't have any earned revenue coming in right now. The only earned revenue that we've gotten has been from the few times that we've reopened. We've done really well, but certainly not enough to fund our operations in its entirety. The bulk of our contributions right now, while the ship is closed, has been coming from individual donations from individuals and smaller groups and things like that. So if you guys like what we do, please support us. Make a donation. If you'd rather get something tangible in return for your donation, you can go to our website and you can purchase some stuff we have there: t-shirts, hats, challenge coins, things like that. And that all goes to the funding of the ship, to fund our operations and doing what we do on the ship. Because, well, it takes people to make a ship move. And so we have a small staff. We have a great group of volunteers, absolutely motivated, and we love them to death. They're a big part of what we do, and you know, a lot of what we've done to date we would not be able to have done without them, particularly on the restoration side of things and some operational things as well. So we are very, very appreciative of those folks. Oh, just John, she won't sink in the harbor. Jared, that's something that we've talked about doing. It's just part of it, just making the time. You know, I drew the short straw to end up on camera, but for the most part, but for the most part, what I do is manage all the projects that we have going on outside of the hull repair, and then even then I'm very integral in that, working with our project manager on that, and so there's not a lot of time. That's pretty much why we haven't put a video up since February. Is we've just been running flat out between reopening the ship in March and a lot of the other things that we have going on. We just started 2 weeks ago the preliminary work for the repairs to the superstructure, which is we're doing hazardous materials abatement right now. So that's, again, it's a lot of work going on right now to the ship, though it may not look like it. We're getting the deck cleared from all the big stuff. It's coming. So it doesn't leave a lot of time for us to shoot videos. And Kyle here behind the camera, even though he does a lot of editing, he does a lot of documentation for us and a lot of other things. So it's just, we try to do it as much as we can, but again, it's really difficult. But thank you.
So if you want to experience what life would have been like for a immigrant traveling from Europe to Galveston back in her heyday.
Dave, no, we don't sell shirts on Amazon. You can go to our website, battleshiptexas.org, and we have a sell page there.
If you're
There's plenty of asbestos on the ship, a regular 100. That's one thing that we do is test periodically, bulk air monitoring, make sure that there's no flammable stuff in the air, and then we remove whatever we can as we're working in areas. Our goal is to reduce the hazmat load of the ship as much as possible. So hazmat materials being lead and asbestos.
The Galveston Historical Foundation. Now what that means is that the money that you spent here to put on our boat doesn't go to lights in the historical pocket. What we do is we actually reinvest that money right back here in the community. Some of it, of course, does go to make sure our boat runs. That way Jason and I have a job we can come out here and do. But the rest of it goes to help get the other stuff.
Yes, we do
Bishop
work
Palace doors open, and also to the preservation and restoration of numerous historic sites all across the island. So whether you think the seagull to you intentionally or
Yes, it is.
unintentionally, on behalf of
That's why
myself,
we don't joke
your
around
captain
with
and tour guide today, Brian, your deckhand up at the front, my helper for the trip, an expert photo taker, that's Jason, and everybody else here, part of the Galveston Historical Foundation. Thank y'all so much for cruising around today. We hope you had a great time. And if you ever find your way back down to Galveston or here to the waterfront, be sure to come back by again. We'd love to take you for another historic harbor tour. Now we got one more line to get tied up to the boat. Again, we may bounce around a bit, so if you're standing up, I'll make sure your whole line is up there. And once we get
Hey
that
folks, we're going to go ahead and
last
wrap
line
up our
on,
live stream
Jason
now.
will come
So
and open up the meeting for us.
Try Docs being pushed in right now. We'll put some more stuff on our group. Our Facebook page is currently down. We're having issues with Facebook right now. But we do have a group called Battleship Texas Foundation Group. Find us there. We'll post more pictures and stuff, and we'll go from there. So thank you all very much. And to quote the ship's motto, "Come on, Texas."